What's up, everybody? It's X Ricci here, bringing you back live F1 podcast. This week we're going to Texas for the U.S. Grand Prix. Yeehaw! At the Circuit of Americas there in Austin. It's your boy X Ricci, JK. It's Andrew Cleary, sporting a nice Southern accent. How you doing today, there, Johnny?
Yeah, it is good to be back in Texas. What's up, guys? It is X Ricci. Welcome to episode 8. I just want to say, Andrew, that wasn't bad.
Yeah, I've kind of trying to perfect it. We used to go to like South Carolina every year for a golf trip, and as soon as we got down south past like Charlotte, the drawl just kind of came out. Hit up a Cracker Barrel, have a nice little fried chicken breakfast.
Also, big thing to say. Welcome back, Erica. We missed you in the last episode.
Thank
you. We did okay. I wouldn't say it was great, all joking aside, but we're really happy to have you back. And it is episode 8 of the F1 podcast. It is me, Ricci, Andrew, Erica, and we are very excited to be back in North America. This is the first time a race has been here in 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. So how you guys been since the last race in Turkey?
I'm tired.
You're tired. Okay, great.
I've been good. I went to this past weekend, went on a boys trip to Cobble Beach near Owen Sound to play some golf, like one of the top golf courses in Canada from a private standpoint. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, pretty busy with just like general work and life, and excited to have racing back in North America. It's going to be weird watching a race at 4:00 in the afternoon as opposed to getting up for like 8-9 a.m.
It's like you're gonna actually have to turn one of those TVs while you're watching NFL football and like actually put the race on.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out my setup, to be honest with you.
It's been very confusing. Like, I'm so used to having like the mornings while I'm eating breakfast, watching the race, and then I'm doing stuff in the afternoon, that now I'm like, God dang it, I gotta try to rearrange this all now, and I don't like it. I'm so used to my routine for all this, so be fun though.
Yeah, it's I think we've been lucky that every time we've had a race or even qualifying, it's been either 8 or 9 a.m., the occasional 10. So I'm kind of excited. I think a lot of the drivers, as we've been seeing online, are really embrace being back in the United States. You're seeing them going to basketball games. You see them hanging out with celebrities. For God's sakes, you see Daniel Ricciardo literally in his element, like him and Max Verstappen going boot shopping.
I think you mean Ricky Bobby.
So how much you want to make a bet that he doesn't even make it on the podium or finishes the race on Sunday?
I think he's going to finish in the top 5.
Oh geez, you're way more optimistic than I am. As much as I'd love to see a Danny Rick podium, and I think it would just be a great end to this week we've had leading up to it. And also, if you don't think that a shoey with a giant cowboy hat on is going to be entertaining, I would like to tell you that you're wrong.
I would love to see a Danny Rick podium, because then you can just fire off a nice cowboy boot, fill that up with some beer or for some champagne, and just go to town.
Man, cowboy boot shoey. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking like 10-gallon hat, and that's where my focus was.
That would be another classic shoey, quote unquote. That'd be sweet.
Honky tonk with the boot stock.
Because I think the hats I think the podium hats this week are actual cowboy hats, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they purposely I think they purposely do that for this weekend.
That's pretty wicked.
So actually, before we kind of dive a little bit more in some of the news that we've been seeing, any takeaways from Turkey other than, okay, actually, Andrew, I got a question. What was Sebastian Vettel thinking using softs when the track was still relatively wet? Like, I get it. You got to gamble when you have to gamble, but I kind of was very disappointed in the 4-time F1 champion to do that. Like, I felt weird.
Yeah, I think just because I think it came to a point when because the intermediates have just, they become a pretty solid slick tire after, I think, 20-30 laps, right? So I think you kind of misjudged it based on that. But yeah, and I don't know, it's a real big gamble. Either works or it doesn't. So he's going to have to pay the consequences. And that was kind of I don't know. I think it wasn't a good move. Aston Martin this year have done a really bad job. Just I think they've been back. They've fallen back due to the aerodynamics. I think this year is going to be a bad year. Just has been a bad year overall for them. Case in point, with regards to last race, I do think though that they're playing the long game and they're going to be very good for years to come. But this year is just kind of like it's a setback for sure. But knowing Lawrence Stroll, he doesn't like to lose, and he'll do anything in his power to put enough money into that team so that they don't lose anymore and they start to win. Exactly, because cash is king in Formula One.
Erica, anything stood out from you from the Turkey Grand Prix?
I think it was just a very interesting race in terms of tire management. And I know we're so used to talking about it, making fun of Lewis Hamilton and stuff, but once again, I mean, there's some interesting things happening with his idea of strategy versus his team. I mean, to pull him in with a few laps to go, which pretty well cost him the win when you think about it. But had he listened to his engineers and come in several laps earlier when they were asking him to, it would have given him more time to make a move and potentially end up in a better position. So, I mean, snaps for Ocon going an entire race without changing his tires. I mean, that was insane because it was definitely a tricky race. And with everything that was going on the track, to survive on a set of inters for an entire race is something I was definitely not expecting. But I mean, great work to a lot of the drivers. I mean, we had talked briefly, Sainz got his first driver of the day, and it was definitely well-deserved. A lot of great moves on his part, but I just got to look at Hamilton and be like, man, if you're not complaining about your tires after like 2 laps of using them, you're pushing yourself too far to the point that you're not making any strategic moves by going into pit. So hopefully, he can take that as a good learning going into these last few races of the season and not make the same mistakes twice. So he's still competitive for that championship title.
Because like in Russia, he listened to his team when they go into the inners, and that, allowed him to be the winner of that race. And, team, I think, made a good call, would have made a better call to come in a few laps earlier, as Erica mentioned, and you should have listened to them again in that case, because he was dropping off pace pretty quick. Absolutely. Against Sergio. And then that's when it was like, yeah, they're coming in or you're staying out the entire time. And it was, it was at the really bad end of the coming in part of the race. So yeah. Go ahead, Ricci.
Oh, sorry. No, I hate to interrupt you there. Sorry, Andrew. But
no worries.
I think especially with these last couple of races, it's like this communication and like the trust between the driver and his engineers has to be like very like on point. It can't be this wishy-washy. You're coming in and we're telling you you're coming in, or like stay out if we think that it's doable. But yeah, I mean, Ocon stayed out the whole race, but he only jumped 2 spots. Was it really worth staying on those tires the whole time to go from 12th to 10th? But I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons learned for a lot of drivers, whether they're inexperienced or like a veteran like Hamilton. And this season's really showing it, I think, and that's what makes it so exciting. And I'm really excited for this weekend. Not only that we're going back to North America, because obviously, we were excited for the Montreal Grand Prix and it had to get canceled. But it'll be nice to kind of just see crowds in the United States again watching an F1 race. And like, to be honest, it'll be my first ever US Grand Prix watching it. So
I want to commit. Actually, Johnny, I got a question for you. What are your thoughts on Ferrari's upgrades on their engine? Because they've, last race they looked pretty scary in terms of I think they had one of the better performances of the weekend.
I there's no secret that they said earlier that we're not going to get some of their upgrades until I think it was after the Italian Grand Prix, and you're starting to now see that in the car, and like how Leclerc is consistently 4th place in Turkey. Russian was not a good example, but like they're really kind of pulling together, and Carlos Sainz getting driver of the day, and he didn't even expect it. I don't think a lot of people realize, but if you get driver of the day vote, then you automatically go into an interview after the race and I'm pretty sure, I forget who the reporter was just asking like, "Oh, you got driver of the day?" And Carlos was like, "I did."
First time he's ever won that in his career.
Yeah. So, yeah, it would be exciting. And I think everyone who saw the news, Binotto is staying back. I think it's two races to really focus on the car and the engine for next year. And I think there will be a lot of heavy emphasis on Ferrari to really, I think this year was obviously going to be like a recovery year, but to actually really compete for potentially third or even, well, at this point, probably second. To be back at where they used to be fighting under Vettel. But yeah, I was excited. Kind of will be interested to see how this weekend goes. I don't really know much about this track, to be quite honest.
So this
My
week,
knowledge of it.
go ahead, Erica.
My knowledge of it mostly stems from the fact that all of Hollywood's best and brightest like to strut around the pit lane. That is the extent of my knowledge.
I think didn't Will Smith wave the finish the checkered flag last time? I remember he taped Lewis Hamilton up. No one.
Well, fun fact, I think so. The last time they had a race in 2019, Valtteri won, but with his second place finish, Lewis Hamilton won the 2019 World Drivers' Championship there.
Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So that's his last time being in the U.S. and with the 6-point gap that he's behind now against Max, that won't happen this week. But that's got to be some good vibes for Lewis going into this race. This track, I think, is pretty interesting. It's got a kind of a bit of a mix. It's got some of the it has like the Suzuka kind of style S's at the first part there. I think the real cool portion, I think, or the real much action is going to be on that first lap on the first turn where it goes up the hill, has that sharp turn left, and then it goes right down into the Suzuka style S's. And I think that'll be kind of an action area this weekend for some overtaking and along the big back straight there. So it looks like a really fun track. A lot of the drivers love racing on this track. So I think it's going to be a really good quality race this weekend.
I'm hopeful. Sorry. Oh
no, Erica. No, I know. Sorry, we're doing this really late, so we're kind of all been thrown off. Erica, go ahead. I've already talked enough.
No, I'm excited to see how this goes. I mean, this isn't, like I said, it's not a track I'm familiar with, but I know even just from a couple other series of racing that have been there over the years, it's been very exciting to see the type of competition that we've had going on and the quality of the racing that's come out of it. And also, I think what's a really neat feature is that, I mean, so many times if we see tracks with a lot of interesting turns, you don't really get a neat or clean back straight of sorts where, if you've got two cars with good pace coming out of them, they can really jockey for position and make the use of that. And we've got a bit of a feature of that here in the track as well. So I think it'll be great to see some of the skilled drivers. I mean, like we've seen Alonso, Danny Rick make some awesome moves coming out of corners this year, which will prove to be really entertaining for everyone. But we're also going to be able to see a little bit of giddy up in the cars from Mercedes and Red Bull if they're trying to make use of those straights, which will keep everyone competitive. And I'm hoping will keep us on our toes instead of just having a runaway win, kind of like we saw with Bottas last week in Turkey.
Yeah, I was reading a report today that Verstappen, they're confident that they can get their first win at the Circuit of Americas against Lewis. And, these last 6 races are going to be pretty much a slugfest, I think, especially with the back and forth that's been going on like all year. We've been treated to such an amazing race from the driver's side. I think Mercedes is pulling away on the constructor side, and I don't know if Red Bull can get the 40-point gap closed in enough in time by the 6th race by the end of the year. But I think, this week is going to be another slugfest between Lewis and Max, and it should be really interesting.
Who do you got money? Who do you think that's going to pull it off this weekend?
Well, Proline Plus is saying that Lewis is the favorite at 1.87 to 1, and Max is the second favorite at 2.35 to 1, and then it drops off significantly to Valtteri at 13 to 1. So I think they're really focusing on those two to be a slugfest. I think Mercedes have really improved their pace, and that's going to really be a really big show, especially in those quick corners, in the quick U-turn, like kind of like the Sochi style U-turn there, as well as down the main straight. So I want to say I'm going to give the advantage to Mercedes this week in that, but we've said that all year, and I've been proved wrong many a time.
You don't want to go with Haas this time since they're their home team?
No, but hey, Q2 appearance for Mick last race in Turkey. Very excited. He was pumped up on the radio. I loved it too.
He actually swore that time instead of self-censoring. Which is great.
I don't even know if I think it threw his engineer off a little bit because they had to go into a new mode that I hadn't heard all year.
Like, oh wait, what do I do right now?
Yeah.
Are we gonna? I think we already talked about this in the pre-show, but Kimi Raikkonen, since this is gonna be his last season, did he? I think he made a comment at the press conference saying that like he's gonna miss. I don't know, Andrew. What was it? He's gonna be missed, or
No, he brings that excitement. He said something along the lines of that he's going to easily replace the adrenaline from Formula One in his daily life. So I'm like, this guy really does not give a shit about racing. It's just a hobby. And I love him even more now because I wish I could get to a point where I can do something so well and consider it just a hobby.
You won't pull over the middle of a race and just get on your yacht in the middle of Monaco?
No, I wish. Oh, that is such a ball move. Like that's such a baller move. I gotta love it. You're like, oh, gets knocked out of the race, so I'm just gonna walk over to my yacht and watch it from there until I have to go back to the garage after the race. That is so sick.
I mean, if ever there were a way to spend your time, that would be the way to do it, right?
Oh, yeah.
But now there's the piece of me that's just like, so knowing that Kimi thinks of driving an F1 as like a hobby, I'm curious what he interprets the level of adrenaline in it to be to replace in his normal life. Like, is he just going to see like how fast can he ride his bike to the grocery store? Like, what is it that he's going to do afterward?
I think he might do. I don't know if he ever does like MotoGP because he did NASCAR. He's done Formula One. I wonder if he's interested in like doing the motorcycling or the motorbike racing. But I think he might want to probably spend time with his kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kimi's kind of a family man down under, deep and down, no one knows about. But I think
did you guys see Nico Rosberg? He posted on his Instagram. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to be interviewing an F1 champion. Who is it going to be?" And I was like, "Oh, it's going to be Lewis Hamilton." I'm like, "Oh, can you imagine if he's like, I'm going to interview Kimi Raikkonen?" And I'm like, "What kind of podcast episode would that be?"
He actually did a really good one with Jensen Button. I think that was the one you're talking about. Yeah, he's talking about who's because Jensen has had the illustrious opportunity to be both Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton's teammate. And it's crazy how highly they speak of Alonso for a guy who's only won 2 world championships, how everyone how much respect he has among the entire Formula One paddock and the former racers and current racers. So it just goes to show how good of a legacy Fernando has and how great he is to come back out of retirement and race for Alpine.
Do you remember that OG podium where it was like Fernando Alonso, Kimi Raikkonen, and Michael Schumacher? It was just like the podiums of all podiums. I forget. Someone's gonna have to write down what Grand Prix that was, but yeah, that was a pretty starstruck podium. Not saying that the ones now are, but
I also just want to point out that Andrew was like, for a guy that only has 2 world driving championships, I'm like, yes, only 2.
What you're comparing him to like Lewis?
He's got one more than Kimi. He's got one more than Kimi.
He's got one more than Jensen.
Also think about how many people race in F1 and like maybe never even get a top podium. Nevertheless, world driving champion.
Nico Hulkenberg.
He's got more wins than yeah.
Too soon.
Or more wins than Alex Albon. Ooh.
He'll be back. He'll be back.
Yeah.
He's very young.
Anything else that we think that's gonna pop up this weekend? I'd be curious to see if Ferrari can compete.
I think Ferrari's gonna be very competitive this week. Johnny, I wouldn't want to show. I'm not gonna sell your team short. I think Ferrari's gonna be one of the top teams this weekend.
I think we're line of a podium as long as like nothing really happens. I think we might get like a third place podium, which I'll be proud of.
I think
There's
that
a
number.
piece of me that's hoping McLaren will end up on there instead of Ferrari, if at all possible, because A, I just want to see Zach Brown happy. And B, you know, I kind of want, I mean, of course, I'm putting my money on Lando over Danny Rick for that, but
I think to John's point earlier in the show, I think McLaren's kind of getting wrapped up in the whole weekend. It'll be really interesting to see if how well Danny Rick performs and how Lando performs, because I know Danny Rick's going to be driving one of old Dale Earnhart's NASCARs that Zach Brown has in his collection around the Circuit of Americas this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see if they can maintain that focus all weekend to get that W.
You know what's the best thing about racing in Austin? It's going to be nice weather all weekend. Got no rain.
Yeah, thank God. Like, I could love me a good rain race, but like I think we need a dry race. It'll be great here.
So just look at the time. Podium predictions. Who do you think we're going to be on the podium?
Ooh, good question.
I'll start to give everyone some time. So
it's always us that goes first. It's about time you went first.
Yeah, you go first, kid.
Okay, you know what? I'm not going to argue it, but
I'm just coming out to assassinate everyone's character tonight.
Whoa! This pod is on fire tonight. I think it's because we're in Austin. That's why. So I'm gonna say Hamilton is gonna squeak by today. Just I feel like Mercedes has the edge going into the US Grand Prix. Do I see Max maybe number 2? Probably, but I'm gonna go. All right. I'm gonna go Hamilton, Checo, and Sainz. That's gonna be my podium. And Checo did some sick burnouts in Dallas. If you guys saw that on the social media.
Did you see that the Red Bull car that they were driving through Fifth Avenue in New York City? That was pretty sweet too.
Was that like a 2010?
Yeah, I think it was
car.
Yeah, I think so.
Just by the nose, it kind of looked like the car that like Sebastian Vettel drove when he was with Red Bull.
Mm-hmm. Erica, what are your predictions?
So similar to what Richie said, I'm going to put Hamilton first. I just think between the car, the drive he's got, it's a pretty safe bet to think that he's going to be up there at the top. I'm going to say Verstappen second because I think he's, hungry, gunning for it. This is a fast car with a lot of good pace to it. And I think that he's got the aggression to make some good moves and put up some good times and pass people well. And I'm also going to pick Checo for number 3. I mean, he's had some good drives lately. And I think that he's just, it's about time really that we see a little bit more from him through this season. So I'm really hopeful that he's going to end up there as well. It would be really nice to see the 2 Red Bull drivers again on the podium like we did before. So I'm hopeful that Checo will have a good showing as well.
All right. I'm going to go a little off the board this week.
I love it.
I think this is going to be another race. Just due to the track, I think, and the fieriness of Austin. I think we're going to see another Lewis Hamilton. No, we're going to see another Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen crash this weekend. Would
not be surprised. Yeah, I think that's entirely possible.
Especially on the first turn.
Yeah, the first turn can get a little dicey, especially when doing some overtakes or doing some overtakes on the straights. I just think it's a big weekend for everybody, and I think if Max gets behind, he's going to really push it. So I'm going to say they're both going to crash out because based on what they said about how DNFs are going to be bad, or Toto came out saying DNFs are going to what makes or break a weekend.
Correct. Yep.
So I'm going to go Valtteri's going to win the race.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna go a Charles Leclerc second place
Interessant.
because I
Okay.
think Ferrari are pretty rapid, and he's had some pretty good success here in the past with that illegal car in 2019. But I think the engine is going to suit them well this week. And in third, screw it, let's go Danny Rick. He's in Austin. He's going to wear that cowboy hat on the podium. So I got to go VB, Charles, and our boy Danny Rick in third place, because I think there's going to be a crash this weekend. I don't know. I think this is crunch time, and I really think this could be an opportunity. I think there's gonna be a really opportunity for people to jockey some positioning, and in that case, I think Max and Lewis are gonna take each other out.
Speaking about Max Verstappen, I don't know who wants to answer this, but did you guys see that article? He did not want to partake in Drive to Survive.
Honestly, I wish he would, because I think it's been such an interesting season to get a lot of commentary on. But I also understand why he would want to opt out from that. And I know for him, he's saying part of it is that he didn't feel that everything was accurately portrayed in the seasons that he participated in, and they made it seem like there were rivalries that didn't really exist. But I mean, it's definitely still been a stressful year for a lot of people. And if we think about the larger trend of things, like if you think of Naomi Osaka opting not to speak to the press and getting fined, and a few other people just trying to focus on the sport and keeping themselves going, I'm not totally taken aback by it, but I really do wish that he would choose to participate, because I think that he would have some interesting points to make and to contribute to the conversation, especially knowing that Hamilton might be a part of it. And with what's gone on between the two of them, if it's overly one-sided, I think that it'll paint 2022 with a very broad brush that might not be flattering for Max.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and I think it's a terrible idea that he's not doing Drive to Survive for a couple of reasons. One, he was recently voted the most favorite driver in F1 according to a recent survey. So he's kind of the face of Formula One right now. Him and Lewis are the face of Formula One, and that Drive to Survive. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people give it a lot of flack, especially online, of the depictions that they have the race and kind of the fake drama that gets presented by it. But I think there's such a big title fight this year that I think Drive to Survive has enough content alone in that to really be able to use that as a platform to grow the sport worldwide and get more fans. And I think when you have an opportunity like that to grow the sport on a worldwide scale through that platform and Drive to Survive, you need your faces to be there. You need Lewis to be on it. You need Max to be on it, because those two guys are pretty much controlling the sport right now and how the championship is going. So as the faces of F1, as part of the faces of F1, Max needs to be in that Drive to Survive. And I think it's a little selfish on his part. I get that he's trying to focus in on winning the races this weekend, like winning the championship. But I really do think it's doing a disservice to F1 by not being in that Drive to Survive, a big platform of how they've been able to grow the game or grow their popularity.
Is it the NFL that you get fined if you don't go to a press conference?
Yes, because that was what happened with Marshawn Lynch and the whole "I'm just here so I don't get fined" and why
Classic.
they were giving him Skittles.
Or okay, so like he actually showed up and ate Skittles, and he's just like, "I'm here so I don't get fined."
Yeah, he literally said that in the press conference.
He literally said it. "I'm just here so I don't get fined."
Okay. Wow.
And the same thing happened to Osaka. She got fined because she wouldn't speak after one of her matches. I think I want to say it was the French GP this year for tennis, but it's across a few sports. It's like your obligation that if you want to play, you have to do the press as well. So as much as I don't think that Max would get fined for this, if it becomes an ongoing thing where he wants to step back from some other things too, I'm curious if there'll be some kind of penalty, either from the FIA and F1 themselves, or if Red Bull because they're like, that's part of the shtick. If you're going to be the face of the team, you got to step up.
Maybe I'm too new to the sport, but I don't picture F1 media as toxic as like tennis is or as the NFL are. Like, for instance, like you saw Max when they had the press conference with Lewis, and when Tom Clarkson asked that question, Max was pretty stern in saying, "We're not answering any more questions about our crash in Silverstone. Deal with it and move on." And they respected that. So I do think the F1 racers have that ability to really just stand up in that environment to the media, and I think the media respect that. And in a sense, I don't think it's as toxic as the other major sports, but I might be I'm just more new to that than I have seen in the past of other sports.
Yeah, like I definitely like when during the when we were just trying to think of talking about like when the Schumacher era was, like the amount of media that would like, if especially in the documentary, we haven't talked about the documentary, but the amount of like times the media would follow him around and stuff. So it's definitely I have to disagree, Andrew, and I know we don't usually go over time for our pods, but we can maybe talk about this after Austin and just be curious to see how that goes. I can understand maybe it is more internal, just thinking, okay, you know what, let's just focus on the race. Let's just focus on the season. You know, let's not pull other teams getting involved in all this like outside politics of media stuff. But yeah, I think we can definitely dive a little bit more on that on the next episode. Because I'm just mindful of time. Actually, I just want to say really excited for this weekend's race. It's good to be back. I can tell you, just walking in the streets of Toronto, people, when I wear my Ferrari jacket, I'm getting more people talking about me, about F1 than probably I did earlier in the year. And actually, Erica, don't you have some big event on Monday? Do you want to tell the pod?
I do. So for the people who don't know, which would probably be all of you that listen, I'm part of Second City going through the training program. And so a whole bunch of us have decided to, for the first time since the pandemic, because we can do it now, put on our own live show at the Social Capital Theater by Broadview Station. So if y'all go on their website, you can find tickets to the Deliberately Offhand Monday Spectacular Live and see me and a few of my Second City friends doing the fun stuff and making stuff up as we go.
So not only that you subscribe to this amazing podcast, but you go out and support Erica on Monday night and her Second City friends.
Please do it.
Link to the tickets will be in the description.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. I will make sure the video gets posted tonight. So on that note, it is me, X Ricci, and going down to Erica.
Bye.
Going down to Andrew.
See you later, y'all. Have a good weekend.
And have y'all great. I can't even do it. Have a great weekend. And we're looking forward to the US Grand Prix. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like me on YouTube, Twitch, and follow us on SoundCloud. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
It'll come back now. You heard?
Yeah.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like
and subscribe.
And subscribe.
And subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.